I'm going to be very direct with you because comfort is not what saves people. Truth does. You are exhausting yourself, you are bending, you are breaking, and you keep calling it patience, kindness, loyalty, or love. But deep inside, something knows this is not right. Something in you is quietly screaming that this is costing you more than it should. You were not created to be consumed by people. You were not sent into this world to disappear for the comfort of others. And if you don't wake up now, you will look back one day and realize you gave your life away to people who would never have done the same for you. Listen to me carefully, because this is where many sincere people get confused. Patience in Islam is not weakness. Patience is strength with direction. But what many of you are practicing today is not patience at all. It is abandonment of the self disguised as righteousness. You tell yourself, Allah loves those who are patient, so you stay silent while your heart is breaking. You tell yourself, I will endure for the sake of peace, while your dignity is slowly being stripped away. You tell yourself, this is my test, while you are being crushed under a weight Allah never placed on you. That is not sabr, that is surrendering yourself to harm. True patience is not passive. It is not lying down and letting people walk over you. It is not accepting disrespect in the name of humility. And it is not allowing repeated injury just so others can feel comfortable continuing their behavior. Islam never taught you to be a doormat. Patience has a purpose. It is meant to protect your soul, not destroy it. It is meant to anchor you to Allah, not trap you in cycles of pain. When patience starts costing you your peace, your iman, your self-respect, then something is wrong not with Islam, but with how you are applying it. There is a crucial difference you must understand. Enduring hardship for the sake of Allah elevates you. Enduring harm for the sake of people empties you. Hardship can refine you. Harm erodes you. One brings you closer to Allah. The other slowly disconnects you from yourself. When a difficulty pushes you to make dua, to strengthen your tawakkul, to become more conscious of Allah, that is a test with wisdom. But when a situation leaves you anxious, bitter, spiritually drained, questioning your worth, and constantly wounded, that is not a noble trial. That is a warning. Some of you are confusing endurance with righteousness. You think the more you tolerate, the more rewarded you will be. But Allah is not impressed by how much pain you absorb. He is concerned with how well you honor the trust He gave you. And you are a trust. Your heart is not expendable. Your dignity is not optional. Your emotional and spiritual well-being are not luxuries. They are responsibilities. Ask yourself honestly, has this patience increased your closeness to Allah, or has it made you resentful, exhausted, and numb? Has it strengthened your iman or weakened your connection to prayer, gratitude, and hope? Has it made you more grounded or more broken? Because patience that pulls you away from Allah is not patience, it is self-neglect. Some people stay in harmful situations because they fear being labeled impatient, difficult, or ungrateful. But Islam does not demand that you suffer silently to maintain appearances. Islam demands truth, justice, and balance, including balance within yourself. Standing upright does not mean standing arrogantly. It means standing with dignity. It means knowing when to endure and when to step back. It means trusting Allah enough to say, I will not continue what is destroying me. Allah does not reward you for erasing yourself. He does not reward you for shrinking your soul so others can feel bigger. He does not reward you for sacrificing your sanity to preserve relationships built on imbalance. He rewards you for integrity. He rewards you for courage. He rewards you for trusting Him enough to let go of what harms you, even when letting go is painful. Many of you stay because you believe that leaving, speaking up, or setting boundaries means you failed the test. No. Sometimes the test is whether you will recognize when something is no longer from Allah. Sometimes the test is whether you will choose Him over your fear of disappointing people. Patience does not mean staying where Allah is slowly being removed from your heart. Patience means remaining anchored to Allah even when you must walk away from what is breaking you. Do not confuse silence with faith. Do not confuse suffering with virtue, and do not confuse self-destruction with devotion. You were created to worship Allah, not to be consumed by people. Stand upright, trust Him, and remember this clearly. Patience that preserves your soul is worship. Patience that destroys it is not. Many of you believe that sacrifice creates gratitude. You believe that if you give more time, more energy, more forgiveness, more access to yourself, people will eventually see your value. You tell yourself, one day they'll realize how much I did for them. That belief is not only false, it is dangerous. Sacrificing yourself does not make people grateful, it makes them comfortable. And comfort is not appreciation. Human beings value what has weight, not what has no limits. When something is always available, always forgiving, always absorbing damage without protest, it slowly loses perceived value. Not because you are insignificant, but because you removed the cost. Islam understands human nature clearly. That is why dignity, boundaries, and justice are part of character. When you erase those, you do not elevate yourself in the eyes of people. You disappear. Many of you are hurting because you gave sincerely but received carelessness in return. You stayed when it was painful. You forgave when it was undeserved. You explained yourself again and again, and instead of being honored, you were taken for granted. This is not because you were wrong to be kind. It is because kindness without boundaries teaches people that your sacrifice is expected, not appreciated. When people know you will always show up no matter how you are treated, they stop treating you carefully. When they know you will forgive without correction, they stop correcting themselves. When they know your heart will keep bleeding silently, they stop feeling responsible for the wounds. This is a hard truth, but it must be said, the more you destroy yourself for someone, the less they respect you. Respect is not built on how much you suffer for others. Respect is built on how you value yourself while dealing with others. Islam does not ask you to give until you are empty. It asks you to give with wisdom. There is a difference. Many people confuse generosity with self-erasure. Generosity is giving from strength. Self-erasure is giving from fear. Fear of losing people, fear of conflict, fear of being alone. And people sense that fear. When your giving comes from fear, it does not inspire gratitude. It invites exploitation. Some people may not even realize they are doing it, but the pattern remains the same. They take more because you keep offering more. And then one day when you are finally exhausted, when you finally say, I can't do this anymore, they are shocked. They say you changed. They say you became cold. They say you are selfish. But you didn't change. You simply stopped bleeding. Understand this clearly. Gratitude requires awareness. And awareness only comes when there are limits. When your sacrifice has no edge, no stopping point, no cost to the other person, it fades into the background of their life. People do not wake up one morning and suddenly appreciate what they never had to protect. Some of you are holding on to hope that if you just endure a little longer, love and appreciation will appear. That hope is keeping you stuck. Because if appreciation was going to come, it would have come before you lost yourself. Islam teaches balance. The Prophet, peace be upon him, warned against excess even in good actions. Why? Because excess distorts purpose. Too much of anything without wisdom becomes harmful, even kindness. You are not rewarded for being drained. You are rewarded for being sincere and just. And justice includes justice to yourself. If someone only values you when you are useful, that is not appreciation, that is dependency. If someone is kind to you only as long as you keep sacrificing, that is not love, that is convenience. And convenience disappears the moment you stop overgiving. This is why when you finally set boundaries, some people react badly. They were never attached to you. They were attached to what you provided. Your sacrifice became their comfort zone. But listen carefully. If your worth in someone's life depends on how much you suffer, that relationship is already broken. Islam does not teach you to buy loyalty with pain. It teaches you to trust Allah with outcomes and to deal with people with dignity. Stop expecting gratitude from people who benefited from your silence. Stop waiting for appreciation from those who grew comfortable with your sacrifice. And stop measuring your worth by how much you gave to those who never learned to give back. You were never meant to destroy yourself to be valued. True appreciation comes when people see you as a person, not a resource. And if someone cannot value you without consuming you, their absence is not a loss, it is relief. Sacrifice does not create gratitude. Boundaries create respect. And respect is what allows real appreciation to exist. You are tired, not because you are weak, but because you are carrying weights that were never meant to be on your back. You are emotionally drained, spiritually heavy, and constantly overwhelmed, not because Allah gave you too much, but because you picked up responsibilities that do not belong to you. Allah did not assign you the role of fixing everyone. Some of you have turned yourselves into emotional crutches. You are the listener, the fixer, the absorber of pain. You carry other people's anger, confusion, trauma, and poor decisions as if they are your obligation. You stay awake worrying about people who sleep peacefully after dumping their burdens on you. That is not sacrifice for Allah, that is misplacement of responsibility. Islam is very clear. Every soul is accountable for itself. Guidance comes from Allah. Change comes from Allah. You can advise, support, remind, but you cannot transform someone who refuses to move. Yet many of you are trying. You are holding relationships together alone. You are apologizing for things you did not do. You are adjusting endlessly while others remain unchanged. You are carrying guilt for outcomes that were never in your control. And slowly this drains you. When you take on burdens Allah did not give you, it creates spiritual imbalance. You begin to feel resentful. You begin to feel invisible. You begin to feel like no matter how much you give, it is never enough. That is because it isn't yours to carry. Some of you believe that if you let go, everything will collapse. That if you stop holding things together, people will fall apart. But listen carefully. If a relationship, a family, or a situation only survives because you are sacrificing yourself, then it is already unstable. You are not meant to replace Allah in people's lives. Many of you are confusing responsibility with control. You think that if someone is hurting, failing, or lost, it is your duty to save them. But Islam does not teach you to take responsibility for results, only for effort within limits. When effort turns into obsession, when care turns into self-erasure, when concern turns into constant anxiety, you have crossed a line, and that line is costly. Carrying what Allah did not assign weakens your tawakkul. You start relying on yourself instead of trusting Allah with outcomes. You start feeling like everything will fall apart if you stop trying. That is a dangerous place to be spiritually. Allah does not need you to exhaust yourself to keep the world functioning. Some of you are holding on to people because you feel guilty. You feel guilty for their pain, their past, their struggles. But guilt is not guidance. Guilt is not wisdom. And guilt is not a reason to destroy yourself. You can care without carrying. You can love without bleeding. You can support without suffocating yourself. And this is where many people struggle, because letting go feels like abandonment. But there is a difference between abandonment and boundaries. Boundaries say, I care, but I cannot carry what is not mine. Abandonment says, I don't care at all. Islam teaches boundaries. When you keep absorbing what belongs to others, you block their growth. You prevent them from facing consequences. You delay their accountability. You unintentionally enable stagnation. Sometimes the most merciful thing you can do is step back and let people confront their own responsibility. Allah did not make you responsible for outcomes. He made you responsible for intention, effort, and truth. Everything beyond that belongs to Him. Ask yourself honestly, are you helping or are you controlling? Are you supporting or are you compensating for someone else's lack of effort? Are you serving Allah or are you trying to play a role Allah never assigned? Because when you play savior, you burn out. And burnout does not make you righteous, it makes you empty. Many people reach a point where they feel spiritually numb. They pray but feel nothing. They give but feel resentful. They serve but feel unseen. And they wonder why. Often it is because they have been pouring themselves into places Allah never told them to pour. Your energy is an amana. Your emotional strength is an amana. Your time is an amana. You will be asked how you used them. You will not be rewarded for carrying what Allah did not give you, but you will be rewarded for trusting Him enough to put it down. Putting it down does not mean becoming cold. It means becoming aligned. It means saying, Ya Allah, I have done what I can. The rest is yours. And when you finally stop carrying burdens that are not yours, something changes. Your chest feels lighter. Your prayers feel clearer. Your heart feels more present. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped replacing Allah. You were never meant to be everyone's solution. You were meant to be a servant of Allah with wisdom, balance and trust. Carry what He gives you and have the courage to put down everything else. Your kindness was never meant to be a permission slip for people to hurt you. But when kindness is given without limits, without correction, without consequences, that is exactly what it becomes. People do not hear your silence as patience, they hear it as approval. Every time you tolerate behavior that wounds you and say nothing, you are teaching people how to treat you. Every time you forgive without addressing the harm, you are telling them the damage does not matter. Every time you stay after being disrespected, you are confirming that your pain has no cost. This is not mercy, this is conditioning. Islam does not teach you to be endlessly absorbent. It teaches you to be just. And justice does not mean being harsh, it means being clear. Many of you believe that speaking up will make you cruel, that setting boundaries will make you un-Islamic, that correcting someone will make you arrogant. That belief is wrong. Silence in the face of repeated harm is not humility, it is neglect. When kindness has no boundaries, it loses its moral power. It becomes an invitation. And some people consciously or unconsciously will walk right through it. You must understand human behavior clearly. People do not repeat actions that have consequences. They repeat actions that are tolerated. When you keep forgiving the same wound without change, you are not teaching forgiveness, you are teaching permission. And permission breeds escalation. At first, it is small. A dismissive comment, a broken promise, a subtle disrespect. You tell yourself it is not worth addressing, you choose peace, but the behavior does not stop, it grows. Because it can. People push where there is no resistance. Islam recognizes this. That is why dignity is not optional. That is why self-respect is part of character. That is why enjoining what is right and forbidding what is wrong is a responsibility, and that includes what is done to you. Correcting someone does not mean humiliating them. Setting a boundary does not mean cutting ties immediately, but continuing to absorb harm while calling it patience is not righteousness. Some of you are afraid that if you draw a line, people will leave. Let them reveal themselves. If someone only stays when they are allowed to harm you, their presence was never a blessing. Kindness that erases you is not kindness, it is self-betrayal. And here is the painful part. When people repeatedly cross your limits and you keep staying silent, they stop seeing you as a person. They start seeing you as a function, someone who exists to smooth things over. Someone who will always adjust, someone whose pain is manageable. This is why when you finally speak up, they react with shock or anger. Not because you are wrong, but because you disrupted a system that benefited them. Islam does not teach you to preserve systems built on your suffering. Mercy in Islam is balanced with justice. Forgiveness is balanced with accountability. Patience is balanced with truth. Remove one side and the whole structure collapses. Your kindness should invite goodness, not entitlement. If your kindness is consistently met with harm, something must change, and that something is not you becoming colder, it is you becoming clearer. Boundaries are not threats, they are information. They tell people what is acceptable and what is not, and people who respect you will adjust. People who benefit from your silence will resist. That resistance is not your failure, it is evidence. You are not responsible for how people react to healthy limits. You are responsible for protecting the trust Allah placed in you, and allowing repeated harm violates that trust. Stop confusing gentleness with submission. Stop confusing forgiveness with permission. Stop confusing silence with faith. Your kindness should be an act of worship, not a weapon used against you. And if someone uses your kindness as a license to hurt you, it is not your job to endure it forever. It is your responsibility to stop it. Islam does not reward you for being endlessly harmed. It rewards you for being truthful, balanced, and just, including to yourself. Kindness without boundaries teaches people how to mistreat you. Kindness with boundaries teaches people how to honor you. Choose wisely. Many of you are not sacrificing yourselves because you are noble. You are doing it because you are afraid. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of being replaced. Afraid that if you stop giving, stop adjusting, stop tolerating, you will be abandoned. So you shrink yourself to stay connected. You silence your needs to avoid conflict. You accept pain to avoid loss. You overgive to earn your place. And slowly, without realizing it, you start valuing other people's presence more than your own existence. This is not love. This is fear disguised as loyalty. Be honest with yourself. How many times did you feel hurt but said nothing because you feared the distance it might create? How many times did you compromise your values because you thought if I speak, they might leave? How many times did you feel something was wrong but stayed because leaving felt more terrifying than staying? That fear is costing you yourself. When you fear losing people more than losing your dignity, you begin to negotiate your worth. You start telling yourself, maybe I'm too sensitive, maybe I'm asking for too much, maybe I should just endure. But what you are really saying is their presence matters more than my pain. And that belief slowly breaks you. Islam does not teach you to cling to people at the cost of your soul. It teaches you to anchor yourself to Allah, because people are temporary. Their approval shifts, their moods change, their loyalty is conditional. Allah is not. When your heart becomes more attached to people than to Allah, fear enters, because deep down you know people can leave at any moment. So you try to control that outcome by overgiving, overfunctioning, and over-sacrificing. But control through self-erasure never works. If someone stays only because you are silent, exhausted, and constantly available, that is not security, that is dependence. And dependence collapses the moment you try to breathe. Many of you think, if I set boundaries, they will walk away. Listen carefully. If boundaries cause someone to leave, they were not attached to you, they were attached to the version of you that did not resist. A relationship that requires you to disappear in order to survive is not a relationship. It is captivity. You fear being alone, so you choose to be unseen instead. But loneliness does not begin when people leave. Loneliness begins when you are present but unheard, when you are giving but unseen, when you are sacrificing but unvalued. Some of you are already alone, just not physically. You are emotionally isolated inside relationships where your needs are irrelevant. You are spiritually lonely while surrounded by people who benefit from your silence, and you tell yourself, this is better than being alone. It is not. Islam does not glorify staying where you are diminished. It does not glorify emotional imprisonment. It does not tell you to sell your self-worth in exchange for companionship. Allah is Al-Wadud. He is the most loving. When you cling to people out of fear, you are saying, without realizing it, that you do not trust His provision of connection, love, and support. Fear-driven sacrifice weakens your tawakkul. It makes you believe that if you do not hold tightly, everything will fall apart. That belief suffocates your heart. You must ask yourself a difficult question. If this person leaves when I stop sacrificing myself, what exactly am I losing? You are not losing love. Love does not demand self-destruction. You are not losing loyalty. Loyalty does not punish boundaries. You are losing access to someone who benefited from your fear. And that is not a loss. Many people remain trapped because they confuse attachment with value. They think being wanted is the same as being loved, but being needed for what you provide is not the same as being valued for who you are. When you fear abandonment, you give people power over you, power to define your worth, power to decide how much pain you should tolerate, power to keep you small. Islam came to free you from that. Your worth does not come from how useful you are to others. It comes from your relationship with Allah. And when you know that deeply, fear loses its grip. Yes, setting boundaries may cause some people to distance themselves. That distance is not punishment. It is clarity. It shows you who was connected to you and who was connected to your sacrifice. You are not meant to beg for space in people's lives by bleeding for it. Being alone with dignity is lighter than being surrounded while erased. Silence with Allah is safer than noise with people who consume you. Stop choosing people at the cost of yourself. Stop calling fear love. Stop mistaking endurance for loyalty. The moment you choose Allah over the fear of losing people, something shifts. Your chest relaxes, your prayers become honest again, your heart feels less desperate and more anchored. Because you were never meant to live afraid of abandonment. You were meant to live in trust. And trust begins when you realize this truth. Anyone who requires you to lose yourself in order to stay was never meant to stay. Let them go. What Allah replaces them with will not demand your destruction. Allah never asked you to bleed for people. He never asked you to ruin your mental health, crush your spirit, or live in constant emotional pain just to keep others comfortable. That idea did not come from Islam. It came from fear, guilt, and misapplied teachings. You have turned self-destruction into worship, and that is a serious mistake. Allah is Ar-Rahman, He is Al-Adl, He is Al-Hakim. He does not command injustice, and injustice includes injustice against yourself. When you allow yourself to be repeatedly harmed, humiliated, or drained in the name of being good, you are not obeying Allah. You are misunderstanding Him. You are not a disposable servant, you are an amana. Your heart is an amana. Allah placed in your care. Your mind is an amana. Your emotional stability, your dignity, your ability to function, all of it is a trust. And you will be asked how you treated that trust. You cannot stand before Allah and say, I destroyed myself for them and expect that to be rewarded. Allah did not give you life so you could hand it over to people who misuse it. Some of you think suffering automatically equals reward. That belief is dangerous. Not all suffering is noble. Not all pain is purification. Some pain is simply damage, and Islam does not glorify damage. When Allah tests you, the test draws you closer to Him. It increases your humility, your prayer, your reliance. But when a situation pulls you away from Allah, makes you bitter, resentful, spiritually numb, constantly anxious, that is not a test you are meant to endure indefinitely. That is a sign you are out of balance. Allah does not ask you to remain in places where your soul is slowly dying. Many of you are exhausted because you believe leaving, speaking up, or setting boundaries is sinful. You think protecting yourself means you lack patience. You think choosing distance means you lack mercy. That is false. Islam teaches mercy, but never at the expense of justice. Islam teaches forgiveness, but never at the expense of accountability. Islam teaches patience, but never at the expense of your soul. Even the Prophet, peace be upon him, withdrew from harm. He set limits. He walked away from people and places that caused unnecessary damage. Strength in Islam is not endless endurance. Strength is wisdom. You must understand this clearly. Allah does not need you to suffer to prove your sincerity. He sees your intentions without you destroying yourself. Some of you are staying in harmful situations because you think if I leave, Allah will be displeased. No, Allah is displeased when His servants are oppressed, even when the oppression comes from themselves. Yes, there are times when patience is required. Yes, there are times when endurance is rewarded. But there is also a time to step back, a time to protect yourself, and a time to say, this is not what Allah wants for me. If something repeatedly violates your dignity, drains your iman, and leaves you emotionally broken, you must question whether staying is truly obedience or fear-wearing religious language. Allah is not asking you to sacrifice your sanity to keep people comfortable. He is asking you to worship Him with clarity, balance, and truth. And here is something many people do not want to hear. Sometimes the most obedient act is walking away. Walking away from what corrupts your heart, walking away from what normalizes injustice, walking away from what turns you into a shadow of yourself. You do not need permission from people to protect what Allah entrusted to you. Some of you feel guilty for wanting peace. You feel guilty for wanting space. You feel guilty for choosing yourself. That guilt did not come from Allah. Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear, and He does not ask a soul to bear what destroys it. Ask yourself honestly, has staying made you better or bitter? Has it brought you closer to Allah or further away? Has it strengthened your character or hollowed it out? Islam is not about martyring your mental health. It is about aligning your life with truth. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to protect your heart. You are allowed to choose environments where your iman can breathe. That does not make you selfish. It makes you responsible. Allah never asked you to bleed for people. He asked you to stand for truth. And truth includes this: your life has value beyond what you can give away. Serve Allah. Be kind. Be patient. Be merciful. But do not destroy yourself to do it. Because Allah does not need your suffering. He wants your sincerity. And sincerity does not require self-annihilation. The moment you stop sacrificing yourself, clarity arrives. Not slowly, not gently, suddenly, like light entering a dark room. And many people are afraid of this clarity because it reveals truths they were avoiding. When you stop overgiving, you stop explaining yourself endlessly, you stop fixing what isn't yours, something becomes very clear: who valued you and who only valued what you provided. This is why many people never stop sacrificing. They are afraid of what they will see. When you pull back, some people panic. They ask what's wrong. They accuse you of changing. They pressure you to return to who you were. Not because they miss you, but because they miss the comfort your sacrifice gave them. And some people disappear completely. Let them. Their absence is information. Clarity does not come to punish you. It comes to free you. But freedom is uncomfortable at first because it strips away illusions. You finally see which relationships were mutual and which were transactional. Which connections were built on care and which were built on your silence. This clarity hurts, but it heals. Many of you stayed stuck because everything felt confusing. You didn't know if you were being unfair. You didn't know if you were wrong. You kept questioning yourself. Over-sacrifice creates confusion because it disconnects you from your own intuition. But when you stop bleeding for people, your inner voice returns. You start thinking clearly again. You start praying with honesty instead of exhaustion. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, why was I tolerating this? And that question changes everything. Some of you fear that setting boundaries will make you lonely, but listen carefully. Clarity does not create loneliness, it reveals it. Many of you were already lonely, just surrounded. You were alone in conversations, alone in effort, alone in care, alone in accountability, and you mistook that imbalance for connection. When you stop sacrificing yourself, you may feel a temporary emptiness. That emptiness is not loss, it is space. Space for peace, space for sincerity, space for relationships that do not require your destruction. Allah removes people when they block your growth. And He does it gently at first. He sends discomfort, He sends unease, He sends moments where your soul feels heavy. If you ignore those signs and keep sacrificing, the removal becomes clearer. This is mercy even when it hurts. Some of you think clarity means becoming hard, cold, or detached. No, clarity makes you honest. It makes you grounded. It makes you aware of what you can give without losing yourself. When you stop sacrificing yourself, your giving becomes sincere again. It is no longer driven by fear, guilt, or desperation. It is driven by choice. And choice is powerful. You no longer give to be kept, you give because it is right. You no longer stay to avoid abandonment, you stay where there is mutual care. You no longer chase appreciation. You accept it where it exists and release it where it doesn't. This is when your life becomes lighter, not because you have fewer people, but because you have fewer illusions. Many of you fear that if you stop sacrificing, Allah will not replace what you lose. That fear comes from weak trust, not reality. Allah is Al-Kareem. He does not remove without replacing. He does not close a door without opening one that protects you better. But replacement does not always come immediately. Sometimes Allah gives you space first to heal, to reconnect with yourself, to rebuild your relationship with Him without noise. And in that space, something important happens. You remember who you are. You remember your worth without performance, your value without exhaustion, your dignity without negotiation. You stop measuring your importance by how much you suffer for others. You start measuring it by how aligned you are with truth. Yes, some people will leave. Let them. People who only loved your sacrifice were never meant to walk with you into clarity. What remains will be quieter, smaller, stronger, and you will realize something profound. Peace was never waiting for people to change. Peace was waiting for you to stop abandoning yourself. Stop sacrificing yourself for people who would not do the same. Not out of anger, not out of bitterness, but out of obedience to Allah. Because choosing yourself when it means choosing truth, balance, and dignity is not selfish. It is alignment. And alignment is where clarity lives. When you choose Allah over fear, clarity becomes your companion. And once you see clearly, you will never go back to living in the dark just to keep others comfortable. Let me leave you with this, and I want you to carry it with you. You were not created to be exhausted, invisible, and broken in the name of goodness. Allah did not design you to disappear so others could remain comfortable. He created you with dignity, balance, and purpose. Stop confusing suffering with sincerity. Stop calling self-destruction patience. Stop thinking Allah is pleased when you abandon yourself. Choose Allah over people. Choose truth over fear. Choose dignity over desperation. When you stop sacrificing yourself for those who would never do the same, you are not losing love, you are losing illusion. And what Allah replaces illusion with is always lighter, purer, and more real. Stand upright, trust Him, protect what He entrusted to you, because you matter not for what you give away, but for who you are before Allah.